One of the things that I think gets under my skin more than anything else is when people complain about things that they have no control over. It drives me nuts, not just because it's a waste of time, though it absolutely is, but the bigger issue is that it reinforces this narrative in your head that I cannot allow people to just let run wild. I want to give you today a couple of different ways that people are doing this that is sabotaging them at every step of their career and their life. And it is zapping the energy and the time and the attention from the things that they actually say that they want. Now, again, I have seen this in all sorts of different circumstances. One of the most classic is when people come back from a meeting at work, right? You are in the office, you go to this meeting with a bunch of your peers, maybe your boss, a couple of other higher up leaders in the organization are also there. And something happened that made you feel some kind of way, right? So maybe your boss just dismissed this completely legitimate concern that you had, right? People were talking about this idea and you brought up something that really could be a go, no go on a specific project or situation. And your boss didn't really give it the time of day, so nobody else did, right? And then maybe that had you shut down in the meeting, or worse yet, Skyping or texting all of the people that you know to let them know how frustrated you were in that moment. Or maybe you are in some sort of conversation with a peer and they say something that is so belittling that you just can't get past it. And every fiber of your being wants to prove that you are right, that you know things, and that they are missing the boat. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling embarrassed. You're feeling like they don't recognize the type of contributions that you have in this organization. And you know that you are so far beyond this, but you just cannot stop yourself from entering that next conversation and just sharing every single bit of it. And probably, if we're honest, just a little bit more intensely than it actually went down. Am I right? So you have this meeting, you spent 30 minutes there, you are so frustrated, fuming, smoke coming out of your ears the entire time. And then you walk over to your friend's cubicle or their office and you share the entire rundown. And then they validate everything that you're saying, everything that you are feeling in that moment. And you just continue to tell the story. And like a fishtail, it just gets bigger and bigger with time. Pretty soon you realize that you've already been in there for another hour talking about this situation, and now it's time for lunch. And so you head to lunch with another group of friends where you start telling the story again. Pretty soon it has consumed your entire day, although maybe you did go through the motions on a couple of different work topics that you had to actually attend to. But meanwhile, your brain was a completely different place. It was still fighting with that peer. It was still proving them wrong, even though you didn't think of the words in the meeting. It was coming up with all of the different ways that you were going to prove to your boss that this is an important thing that we should look at. And then now you're on your commute home, only to realize that you're still thinking about it. You're still cycling through this in your brain. Maybe you're even having the conversation with your steering wheel, right? You get home, you're making dinner, same thing. And now you're on edge with your kids or with your spouse because you are still spiraling about this issue. And when someone calls you out on it, or when you come into a coaching conversation, you start to say, well, they made me feel so belittled. They made me so angry that it ruined my entire day, that it ruined my entire week, that I wasn't able to contribute to that project the way I wanted to for the entire rest of the time because they made me feel that way. I want you to just take a break in that. Now, so many of us have been there. So if that has been you, maybe even that's you today. And no shame, okay? But I want to offer you a different way to think about it. Did they make you feel that way? Or did you allow yourself to sit and fester in this feeling for far too long? Did you have a quick emotion that then turned into this massive day ruining, week ruining time with your family and your friends, totally ruining situation? Did they do it or did you allow it? Did you allow all of that time and that energy and that focus and that intensity to go into this thing that did not matter? Maybe you're even 100% right. Maybe they were absolutely in the wrong and you still gave it all that time. Was it worth it? Did it get you what you wanted? Did it get you any closer to the place that you wanted to be? Respected, pursued for information, thought of as an expert on the team. Did it get you that? Maybe you were quick thinking enough to fight back in the moment. It might have felt good to prove them wrong, but did it get you what you wanted? Well, there's this thing called the internal versus the external locus of control. And if you have an external locus of control, that means that you believe that your circumstances and the people around you dictate what happens. And if you have been in those situations, that's likely the frame of mind that you're in. Am I right? So you believe that it's your boss, that it's that peer, that it's just, the nature of this project. It's so combative. It is those outward situations that are causing you to lose your time, to lose your focus, to lose your patience with everybody else that's around you. Because that person, that circumstance, that is what took it. Because it made you feel a certain kind of way. Where I want to challenge you to go is to actually take an internal locus of control. That means that you believe that you ultimately have the power to influence these circumstances, to influence these situations, and even these people. Now, you aren't going to have complete control over other people, right? We cannot have complete control over other people in our lives, other people in our relationships. But you can hold on to that ability to make a change, to influence the situation that can pivot the entire ship. Now, I have 3 boys and I spend a lot of time at baseball this time of year. And I see it with them all the time, right? They'll be in a game, things will be going a certain way, everybody's happy, everybody's doing their thing. And then all of a sudden, there's a bad call. The ump said that something was a ball when it was actually a strike. Or they called somebody out when they truly were safe. And the boys get stuck on that. They get stuck on that one bad call. And pretty soon it's like, well, of course we couldn't win. Of course we couldn't win. Someone paid off the umps. For 10U? Come on. Someone is causing us to not be able to win these games because these umps are just making these terrible calls. It might be true. Maybe they did make a bad call. Maybe they were so swayed that they wanted that other team to win. It's possible. But is it useful? Is it useful for these kiddos to be spending all of their time and energy focused on whether or not the umps are against them? Or is it more useful for them to have that internal locus of control and think, well, I'm going to have to, widen my own strike zone. I'm going to have to swing at these things that I would have thought were balls because that's going to be my only chance to get on base. I guess I am just going to have to get to that base quicker. I'm not going to be able to take as risky of steals because I know that I am going to need to change in order for us to win this game. We can still win it. I'm just going to need to play differently. Which one would be more beneficial for those boys to remember, to keep in mind? Obviously, the internal locus of control. Obviously, the things that they can do to advance things forward. Well, the really scary news here is you're not just a player. At your level in the organization, you aren't just a player who gets to say, well, I guess it's the ump's fault, and spend all their time spiraling on that. Spend all their time thinking that there's nothing they can do, the world against them. You're not just a player, you're the coach. Imagine if a coach walked into the dugout with those kids and said, well, it's just these umps. They're just working against you. They're not going to call the strikes and balls the way they need to. They must be paid off by that other team, right? Imagine if the coach approached it that way. How much more difficult will it be for those boys to handle it and strive in a way that they can do something about? How much more difficult will it be for them to swing at stuff that maybe they would have thought was a ball? How much more difficult is it going to be for them to put in all the energy to running to catch that pop up? Because in their head, they're thinking, even the coach says that there's nothing we can do. Even the coach says that it's the ump's fault. If you are walking away from those meetings, spiraling on that same topic, if you are walking over to your friend's office and sharing all of your thoughts, your people are seeing you. They know how you feel. They know that you see other people as having complete control over your circumstances. Is that really the message that you want to be sending to them? I know this is going to feel like a little bit of an attack on some of you, right? That this is something that you have control over, and you are either feeding the fire that is allowing people to just take advantage of you, right? Take advantage of your team, or you are the one who is fired up for yourself and for your team. Now, if you want to be a different kind of coach, if you want to be the type of leader that inspires people to take the right actions to get where they want to be, regardless of what's going on around them, regardless of if their boss has respect for them, regardless of if their peer made a snide comment, regardless of if this project is just filled with a lot of contention, if you want your people to be the ones who can lead through that and influence people despite the circumstances, you have to be able to do it first. And I want to give you 3 things that you can do today in order to right that ship. The first one is going to sound a little bit contradictory, because I don't want you wallowing in those feelings. That's exactly how I started this out, right? I don't want you spending all of your time talking about and thinking about and wondering about everything that you felt in that moment. But what I do want you to do is validate how you felt. That initial feeling that you had, that emotion that you felt in that moment when someone said something to you, or when the meeting wasn't going exactly the way you wanted, that emotion isn't wrong. And I'm not asking you to just avoid it or pretend that it didn't happen. I'm not asking you to have all of this false positivity and be Pollyanna about it. I just want you to move through it more quickly so we can get to the more productive side of it. So how do I want you to handle this? I want you to think in a full sentence. Ideally, I want you to say this out loud to yourself, right? It was really frustrating when, whatever the circumstance was, or I felt really belittled and small when my boss said X, Y, and Z. The whole thing, say the whole thing out loud, right? When I brought up a concern and my boss said that that wasn't something we needed to spend time on, I felt frustrated or I felt belittled. The first thing that's going to do is take the power out of that moment. Because if you have to put real words, a full sentence around it, you have to just naturally be more objective. The part of your brain that gets really emotional, it doesn't actually have capacity for language. The logic and the language part of your brain, that works in one area, and the emotions and the decision making, that works in a different area of your brain. And so when you come out of that emotion and you actually put words to it, it automatically just brings it down a notch for you. Okay. And so when you say it like that, you're taking the power away from that and giving it back to yourself. So that specific instance, again, put your real words to it, was so frustrating, was so angering, was so sad and depressing for me. And this is the next part of your sentence or your phrase, right? And I'm going to, again, add your specific words. What are the things that you are going to do to move forward? And that and is important. We're not saying but. We're not, separating the two things. We are linking them together. That is subconsciously telling your brain that even when this stuff happens, even when this outside thing happens to me, I still get to decide what step comes next. So that was really frustrating. That was really angering. That made me so mad. And I'm going to set up a meeting and I'm going to let it go, right? It allows you that and allows you this mental pause with a connection, right, to the next step. Now, I want you, if you have something going on in real time that you can be applying this to, pause the video. Let's just take a second, write this down. This should not take you more than 30, 90 seconds. This should be so short. You should be able to do this on your way to the next meeting. You should be able to do this as you walk back to your desk, and don't stop off at your friend's cubicle, right? This should be able to happen as you exit out of one Zoom meeting and open up the next one. Take a breath and think through the full sentence. All right, number 2. I want you to take one step towards the second part of that statement. One step that will get you closer to a solution. Maybe it's researching your point. If you have more time and you've come up with your full sentence and you're like, I just want to look that up. I think I'm right, but let me just see if I'm right. Let me get so curious about what I thought and do my own research. I was really embarrassed. I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Let me do this, in private. Maybe it's asking the question, right? Maybe you're going to go to someone who would have more information and actually ask the question about what was going on. Again, you're not asking the question to say, do you think that my boss is a bag? You're asking the question to see if what was going on in that moment is accurate or not. So if they said, your peer said to you, are you even up to speed on the project we're working on? And that was the thing that caused you to just feel the heat rise in your face. Your first step was, that was so frustrating when Peggy asked if I understood what we were talking about. And I am going to make sure that I understand the mission and vision of this project. And so I'm going to ask Sue what the genesis of this was, how we got started on this project, right? So it's not by means of attacking Peggy. We're not asking someone about that. We're asking someone a question about what's going to get us closer to what we wanted. Maybe it's setting a follow-up meeting, right? Maybe it's setting up a meeting with your boss or with Peggy in this, example to say, hey, what's going on here? I want to make sure that I'm delivering on what you needed from me. Help me understand what the concerns were in this project that maybe you've already accounted for that one thing that I brought up, boss. Or help me understand where we're going with this project, Peggy, so that I can make sure that I'm up to speed. I think I am, but let's talk about it a little bit more, right? You're taking positive action to move ahead. You're not spiraling on what happened. You're taking positive steps forward. Again, not to prove you're right, not to double down on the fight that you were having, but to move everyone involved toward a solution. All right, number 3. And this is the part where we go back to the fact that you're not just a player anymore. You're a coach. So number 3 is I want you to reflect this whole situation back to your team. As the coach, you don't want to reflect back that sometimes your boss is a jerk. That's not helpful. You don't want to reflect back that sometimes some projects are just miserable. Again, not helpful. But once you have given yourself the space to accept the feeling, like we did in step 1, once you have given yourself the time to direct your attention where you want it to be, so again, number one, and you've taken some sort of action toward it, then you want to share with your team from a place of solutions, right? So maybe it's in your next huddle with them. You say, hey, I was in a meeting recently where I brought up a concern that nobody else seemed to think was a concern. So what I did was set up a meeting with a different stakeholder to just see if they already had like a mitigating plan around this. So in my head, this was going to be something that was a problem. Other people didn't seem to see it. I wasn't sure if it was a blind spot for them or if it was something that I was blowing out of proportion. So I went and checked with an expert and we found X, Y, and Z. Now you are setting an example of how to move through these situations. You can share that you were frustrated, that you were a little bit hurt and taken aback by this, but you are demonstrating for them. You're becoming the model of how you move through that. So not only are you saying, yeah, sometimes we get a bad call, but we're just going to adjust our batting. Like that's all we're going to do, and that's going to work fine. Yes, sometimes people are going to make rude comments and sometimes they're going to mean them. They are trying to throw off your game. And that's okay. Let them. We're just going to go do the right thing and then we're all going to move forward in step because those are the things that get you noticed. The way you handle those situations, that is how you move up in the company. That is how you find opportunities. That is how you get stronger together. And that's the kind of coach that you want to be, right? You don't want to be the wallowing self-pity coach that says, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. Everybody's, stacked up against us. You want to be the coach that has your team feeling like, we've got this. Come what may, come at me. We are going to move ahead, right? Now, you will actually use less time, energy, mental capacity going through these 3 steps and actually advancing the ball where you want to go than you ever would have spiraling about this situation. And if you want to demonstrate these kind of productive options for your team, then this is the personal leadership that you are going to have to take. You are going to have to dedicate this small amount of time, focus, energy into the things that matter and make you a better leader in order to become the kind of leader that you want them to learn from. All right. I hope that this hit you right where you needed it today. And if you have a friend who has come into your office recently and they were needing some support, they were spiraling a little bit and you didn't know what else to do, you wanted to be supportive, but you didn't want to waste your time spiraling, send them this video. Give them these 3 steps as a gift so that they can move in the direction that they need to go.